US somewhere seems to be softening its stance on Russian oil, where the US seems to have hit the pause button on some sanctions, and this big move is now coming amid surging oil prices. The US Treasury has now announced a measure that 1 month window for Russian oil flow, and the step seems to be aiming at easing global supply fears. Let's connect with Patikrit on this. Patikrit, good morning. Will this move calm oil price, volatility, where Donald Trump and, his leadership doesn't seem to be very much in control of the situation because oil prices have been shooting up?
Good morning. Yes, to a certain extent, at least the sentiment would definitely get a temporary boost. The supply also might get major enhancement. However, when it comes to the Middle East sentiments and the kind of we see the attacks that are happening on tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, that would invariably lead to the price of or the insurance price that is already very high right now. That would go up. So it's going to be a mixed thing. On one hand, you might see because of the rise in supply of the Russian oil, prices might come down. At least for India, it will be a very big boost. But globally, I don't think that there will be so much of a change because there are structural challenges that will invariably be there because you have to reorient the tankers towards Russia. There are issues related to insurance and other things that has to be cleared. So I think it will be mixed. Prices would definitely, at least for Indian context, definitely come down. And we have to see if it is just for 1 month or 1 month later, Trump says that it will, the ease will continue. Because once you have taken off the sanctions, then suddenly putting the sanctions again. Yes. Well, that creates a lot of hassles for the insurance companies and many other associated organizations which are involved in the entire logistics supply chain of supplying oil and associated materials. Back to you.
All right, Patikrit, appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast because it seems that the Treasury Department says that it is taking these steps to further ease sanctions on Russian oil as the crude prices have been surging during the Iran war, where it said that it was granting a license that authorizes and also when it comes to the delivery and the sale of some sanctioned Russian crude oil and petroleum products for the next month. So this waiver that has now been announced as far as for India is concerned comes across as a relief, but the statement that also came in from President Trump earlier, he did not, however, mention any countries, but says that they are now looking in a way when it comes to stabilizing global crude prices as well, and also hinted at the possibility of ending the war soon. Let's talk about the Treasury Secretary. He says that the President of the United States is taking decisive steps when it comes to promoting stability in global energy markets and working to keep prices low as we address the threat and instability posed by the terrorist Iranian regime. And he says to increase the global reach of existing supply, the US Treasury is providing a temporary authorization to permit countries to purchase Russian oil currently stranded at sea. So permit countries, as far as this seems to be the language that again is now repeating on part of US administration, but this time the number of countries or who are those countries, this has not been mentioned. However, he further says that this narrowly tailored short-term measure applies only to oil already in transit and will not provide significant financial benefit to the Russian government, which derives the majority of its energy revenue from taxes assessed with the point of extraction. President Trump's pro-energy policies have now driven US oil and gas produced to record levels, contributing to lower fuel prices for hardworking Americans. And the temporary increase in oil prices is a short-term and temporary disruption that will result in massive benefits to our nation and economy in the long term. So, however, when it comes to the so-called permission that they have been saying, which has been given to multiple countries, at least for in India's case, it's been a 30-day waiver. However, they are saying that it